Somewhere in what is now northern France, about 40,000 years ago, a man woke up in the middle of the night. The fire had burned low, the cave was cold, everyone around him was asleep, and he lay there in the dark, completely awake, with nothing to do and nowhere to go. No phone, no book, no ceiling to stare at. Just darkness, silence, and a mind that refused to stop. We don't know his name. We don't know what he was thinking about. But we know he existed, because insomnia is older than civilization, older than language, older than fire, and what ancient humans did during those sleepless hours quietly built something inside us that we carry to this day. Let's start with something most people get completely wrong. We assume that ancient humans slept better than we do, that without screens and stress and the relentless noise of modern life, sleep came easily, that they simply laid down when the sun set and woke when it rose, perfectly rested, perfectly synchronized with nature. That is almost entirely false. In 2015, anthropologist Jerome Siegel at UCLA published one of the most important sleep studies ever conducted. His team traveled to 3 of the last hunter-gatherer communities on Earth: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, the Tsimane of Bolivia, communities living today in conditions almost identical to our prehistoric ancestors. No electricity, no artificial light, no alarm clocks, no sleep hygiene advice from the internet. What Siegel found shattered every assumption about natural human sleep. These people did not sleep 8 hours. They slept an average of 6 hours and 25 minutes per night. Less than most sleep researchers recommend. Less than most modern people manage. They woke frequently during the night. They lay awake for periods that would send a modern doctor reaching for a prescription pad. And not a single one of them had a word in their language for insomnia. Because waking in the night was not a problem. It was just the night. Here's what's fascinating. The human brain was never designed for the kind of sleep we now consider normal. That 8-hour unbroken block, the gold standard of modern sleep medicine, has almost no precedent in human evolutionary history. It is, in a very real sense, an invention. Think about what the night actually was for most of human history. It was the most dangerous time alive. Predators that hunted humans, leopards, hyenas, lions, were most active between midnight and dawn. A human who slept too deeply, too completely, too uninterruptedly was a human who might not wake up at all. Your brain evolved to keep one part of itself listening, always, even while the rest of you slept. Researchers call this unihemispheric vigilance, a state where part of your brain maintains low-level awareness even during sleep. Dolphins do it completely. One half of their brain sleeps while the other stays awake. Humans do a version of it. The light sleep phases, the ones where you half wake and then drift off again, are not failures of your sleep system. They are your sleep system working exactly as it was built to work, protecting you from something that no longer exists. But what happened when ancient humans couldn't sleep at all? When the wakefulness stretched past those light phases and into something longer? Something that kept them sitting up, staring at dying embers, while the rest of the camp breathed slowly around them? The answer comes from 2 places: the archaeological record, and the community Siegel and others have studied directly. The first thing ancient humans did when they couldn't sleep was move toward fire. In every hunter-gatherer community studied, the fire is the center of nighttime wakefulness. People who wake in the night do not lie in the dark waiting for sleep to return. They get up. They tend the fire. They sit beside it in the particular silence that exists only between midnight and dawn. And something happens in that silence that anthropologists have documented repeatedly. They think, not anxiously, not the racing, circular, catastrophizing thought of modern insomnia, but slowly, deliberately, the way your mind moves when there is absolutely nothing competing for its attention. Polly Wiesner, the same anthropologist who documented how night conversation changed around the campfire, noted something specific about the people who woke in the night. They were often the elders, the most experienced members of the group. And they spent those hours doing something the daylight hours never allowed. They reviewed, they processed. They turned the events of recent days over slowly in their minds like stones in a river, wearing them smooth. Modern neuroscience has a name for this: It is called memory consolidation. And it turns out those sleepless ancient humans were doing something extraordinarily productive with their wakefulness. In 2019, researchers at the University of California found that the brain's memory consolidation process, the mechanism by which experiences are converted into long-term memories, is not confined to deep sleep. It also happens during quiet, relaxed wakefulness. The kind of wakefulness that has no demands on it. No input arriving from outside, just a mind sitting with what it already contains. The ancient human sitting beside a dying fire at 3 a.m. was not suffering. They were, in a very real neurological sense, filing, sorting the experiences of the day into the architecture of long-term memory, processing social conflicts, rehearsing future hunts, working through grief. All of it happening quietly, automatically, in the dark. This is what we replaced with our phones. And here is the part that should make you put this video down and think. Modern insomnia, the kind that sends people to doctors, that drives a global sleep aid industry worth over $80 billion, that has become one of the defining health crises of our time, is not primarily caused by stress or screens or bad habits. Those things make it worse, but the root cause is something else entirely. It is the meaning we attach to wakefulness. When an ancient human woke in the night, wakefulness was neutral. It was simply a state of being, sometimes useful, sometimes just the night doing what the night does. There was no correct way to sleep, no standard to fall short of, no anxiety about the anxiety. When a modern human wakes at 3 a.m, the first thought is almost always the same. I should be asleep. Something is wrong. And that thought, that single interpretation of a completely neutral biological event triggers a stress response that makes sleep biologically impossible. The insomnia is not the wakefulness. The insomnia is the story you tell about the wakefulness. Researchers call this psychophysiological insomnia, the condition where the fear of not sleeping becomes the thing that prevents sleep. It affects an estimated 25% of the global adult population. It was essentially unknown before the 20th century, not because people slept better, but because they did not believe that waking in the night meant something had gone wrong. The man in the cave in northern France 40,000 years ago lay awake in the dark. The fire was low, the cave was cold, and his mind moved slowly through the day that had just ended and the day that was about to begin. He was not broken. He was not disordered. He was not failing at sleep. He was doing exactly what a human mind does when it is left alone in the dark with nothing to do but be alive. The question is not why ancient humans couldn't sleep. The question is why we decided that waking up at 3 a.m. means something is wrong with us. It doesn't. It never did. Your brain is just doing what it was built to do. 40,000 years later, in a world it was never designed for.